Hi, this is a quick video to talk about how to manage a software project as a non-technical founder. A non-technical founder is really someone who does not understand coding. So they have relied on a third-party developer, either by hiring someone directly or they have outsourced it to an agency to do the software development for them. And the end result is really to bring your idea to life. That's what you're trying to achieve. So what is the problem? There have been millions of app developers, and you can go on Reddit or any of the blogs, and there is a recurring theme of the problems. Rework, delays, communication gap is very common. And all of this because you are ultimately paying for it, you are held responsible for the budget creep. And if the project gets delayed, you are going to suffer. But this is a symmetrical problem. On the other side, on the development side, the agencies also suffer from scope creep because they agreed to a particular scope. And if the requirements are changing or unclear to be discovered later on, they face scope creep, which affects their budgets. Altogether, both sides have misalignment. And so we're going to present a framework to solve this problem. We call it the four pillar framework. But before I dive into this framework, I want to emphasize on the most important thing that you need to keep in mind. You are the subject matter expert. You have deep understanding of what the customer wants or what the business process is. So you are the expert in this domain. You may not know coding. Don't let that hold you back. You must not forget that you are the expert of this domain. As the software development project progresses, you may feel like you're out of your depth because you don't understand coding or some archaic technology term. Don't worry about it. That's not your domain. That's why you have hired a software developer. We are going to present you a framework that actually allows you to manage a software project within your area of competence. And the four framework is as simple as requirements, features, test cases, bugs. Any software projects stand on these pillars. Why we use the reference to pillars is because pillars support the building. And in your case, your software project is held together by these four pillars. They are very simple to understand. And I want to give you a conceptual understanding, but also tools where you can effectively manage these four pillars. Okay. So very quickly, what is a requirement? A requirement is really a clear understanding of the software project which only you as the founder can explain. This is your main contribution. You cannot over communicate in this domain. Okay. The second pillar is features. This is what the developers build and deliver. And we keep these columns separate. We don't want to intermingle these two columns because requirements stand where you understand what the user wants and your developer is responsible to deliver from what they can understand. Test cases, often also known as UAT or user acceptance test. This is a very critical pillar and it is often missing in software projects. Did the features that your developer built meet the intent of your requirement? And I want to emphasize here, especially that many software companies will say, oh, we have a robust QA system. That is not what I'm talking about. A QA, or known as quality assurance system, is only going to check if your feature that you have developed, the code that you have developed, if that is working. Yes, it is working. Your job is to ensure that it is meeting the requirement. That is a key difference, right? Um, Finally, bugs. Expect it. That's my main pitch here. Every software development project is going to have bugs. We want to eradicate the critical bugs, but there are going to be bugs. And so you need a framework that allows you to expect them, manage them, and control them as they come up. Because one day your developer will finish and you'll deploy the product, but you might discover the bug down the line, right? We're going to go into a little bit more details, layer by layer, into how to actually manage a project along these four pillars. Okay. So as we get into it, how, what, whys of these four pillars. Let's take this simple framework. We have the four columns. And in a simple project, you write down your requirements. Your developer will come down and identify what the features they're going to build. Once they've delivered the feature, you can come in, do the testing of it to validate that that feature not only works, but it actually meets the intent of the requirement. Good. Everybody's happy. Life is simple. Why we give this framework is, you're going to have hundreds of thousands of requirements. Keep them in their own column, right? Let your developer look up those requirements, group them, and build features along with it. It is possible that there could be multiple requirements that can be satisfied with a single feature. Or in another scenario, there could be a single requirement that needs multiple features. Doesn't matter. Let your developer work in the feature column. You just control your requirements column. Okay. And in this instance, if you look at this as a project, you can clearly identify that, oh, my requirement number 4 has not been met by any feature, right? So by keeping all your requirements tidy in one column, you can control the scope in the sense which requirements have been met, how they have been met, and which requirements are still to be met. In a typical software project, the structure of the software project is set up like this. They set up an epic, then they have user stories and subtasks and so on. You will notice this is an embedded structure. What do I mean by that is an epic is a quantum of work that a developer is planning to do. And they take a user story, which can be like your requirement, and they embed it within their epic. This is a problem because now they are having to cut down that user story to fit into that epic. What we want to do is going back to the four pillar framework, you keep your requirements steady in the one column. Let the developer work in the feature and they can subdivide their feature into multiple tasks and do whatever they want to do with their embedded nature. That's okay. You do not touch your you do not let them change your requirements or embed them into a feature, because now they will ask you to write a requirement that fits into that feature that they want to build. No, it's the other way around. You just list down your requirements and let your developer worry about the feature. You don't worry about it. What you need to do is write test cases, and down the line, if you identify bugs, report the bug. Now, in this scenario, you can see here a few things. One, feature 2 was delivered, but you failed to do a test case for it, right? And down the line, you identified a bug. So now you can trace it backwards to say, okay, this bug is coming from this feature. I can clearly see that I missed a test case. So that is why probably you could have found the bug earlier if you had built a test case for it. Hence, I say for every feature and requirement, you should have a test case. And similarly, if you find many bugs linking back to the same feature, it also helps you understand that there might be a quality issue here, right? And you have evidence to prove it. I hope that this framework explains why and how you should manage a software project. The question still remains, what tools are there to manage a software project if you want to use the four pillar framework? There are many tools in the marketplace. We are going to talk about Sodelic because it allows you to create nice linkages between requirements and features and tests and so on. So I'm going to switch gears to show you how Sodelic works. But you can recreate this four pillar framework into any tool of your choice. Okay.
So here we're gonna do a quick demonstration of Sodelic. Sodelic is an app that I created, full disclosure, and it's really based on software development lifecycle, commonly referred to as SDLC. If you've never heard of that phrase, don't worry about it, doesn't really matter. All it does is we try to build a tool that allows software projects to be delivered and managed correctly. Okay. Go right in. So as you come into the landing page, the landing zone, you can start off by creating a project. So let's assume a project for employee scheduling application. So imagine you work for a business that you want to create an employee scheduling application. So let's work with that. As you come into the project, um, you can see the four pillars that we talked about. It is set up with requirements, features, test cases, and bugs. So these four pillars, or you can think of them as channels, they are set up for you. So we can start by simply adding requirements. So since it is an employee scheduling app, one of our simple requirement is that an employee should be able to enter time card. Okay, very simple. And let's add another one which says an employee should be able to request vacations. No, who doesn't like to go on vacations? Okay, two simple requirements. And as you can see that the first one, you can go in and you can add more details into it. And as written, there isn't a lot of information, right? So what we want to do is we can use the help of AI to add more context to the requirements. Why do we want that? Is because when we write a requirement as a human, we don't think about the holistic nature of it. But here you can see that with the help of AI, it has given a very good description. So we can use this or can further edit it. Basically, what this tool does is it helps you write good requirements. If you reflect back to what I described earlier, as a subject matter expert, you need to write good requirements because this becomes the foundation against which your development team and your testing team will work with. So we've now captured a requirement. Now you can decide that if you're happy with this requirement, you can put it into scope. Once I put it in scope, you can see that it is now locked. I cannot edit it. If I go back to the other requirement, for example, you can see this one is in scope. This second requirement, it is currently in draft mode. I can edit it and I can continue to edit it. If I want, I can edit lock it. By edit lock, only I will be able to edit it if you don't want rest of your team to go in and edit it. But for the most part, it is editable. And this is very important because you are defining the requirements. You, as the founder, you understand requirements. You don't want your developer to come in or somebody else to come in and willy-nilly change it. You can definitely review it with them. You can ask them to add comments or questions. If you have other artifacts, for example, you may have wireframe diagrams, you have a UI UX design person, you can attach them here. You might have business process documents or any artifact that supports this requirement. For example, this is talking about vacations. You might have a policy document, submit, you can attach them here. What this does is it becomes like a library for all information captured in one place. Going back, what it does is it becomes a reference point for your team for all your requirements, right? And jumping into the dashboard, I can see that I have created two requirements. One of them is in scope, one of them is in draft. Okay, so let's go back to the one in scope that we just created in scope. So an employee must be able to time card. And this is where I want to talk about related features. Now, you want, when you show this to your development team, they might be able to read this and simply be able to create a requirement that, okay, what I need to do is create an employee time card module, right? Of course it will be more detailed, and they can say that, okay, I can finish this, let's say today is 13th November, so we might be able to finish this within a month. Let's put it that 18 December and create, and that's it. So now what we have done is if you look at the view, there is this one requirement and it is linked to the feature, right? Now mind you, we also talked about test cases. You have defined a requirement, you, your development team has created a feature, but we don't know how this requirement is satisfied, as in how do you know it will be satisfied? A good way is to create test cases, right? Now adding test cases is best practice, but a lot of people struggle with adding test cases. So this is an area where AI can really help you. Just a request for AI suggested test cases. We are asking for test cases, so let's just say, so this tool will help you generate proper test cases specifically from a user acceptance point of view. Takes a minute, so let's give it a minute. Okay, so there we go. Uh, it has come up with quite a few test cases. Let's look at the first one. It says verify time card entry submission, an expected result, and rationale. And this is very important. When you're doing an acceptance test, you want to say what is the test, right? You test that the employees can successfully enter and submit your time card details, right? You also write about what do you expect the outcome to be, what should be the correct answer, and the rationale. This is the most important piece, where when people write test cases, they need to also be able to explain why the test case is important. And this is so rare. I have hardly ever seen anybody do this, but without explaining the why, you're just testing without actually thinking through it. uh, I'm going to take these two, and I'm just going to add these selected. I'm going to get rid of the rest, and let's close this on. So now we can see that what is happening is I have a requirement. My dev team have created a feature, and I've also created two test cases so that when this feature is ready, I can go and test them. As you can see, with this in place, I have now created some control on my project. I can come in here and I can see that my project is 7% complete. So what does that mean? Now my goal is to be 100% complete. So what am I missing here? So let's see. When we talk about requirements, it is telling me that I have two requirements. One of the requirements has a decision pending. Aha, what that means is this requirement, I have created a requirement, but I have not decided whether it is in scope or not. It is currently as a draft item. And this happens a lot, guys, right? Let me go back to the requirements. You can see that we have one requirement. It is in scope. Actually, I marked it as must could have. I should probably change it. As an admin, I have the admin rights. I'm going to push it back. Submit. I want to make it a must have, and I'm going to put it in scope. Okay, let's go. Going back, I can see that, okay, I have a one item that is a must have. It is creating a priority. The second one, I have it, okay, should be able to take vacations. That's okay. It is actually a very important requirement, but for the sake of this demo, let's say that I want to mark it as out of scope. Okay. When I mark it as out of scope, what it does is it locks it, just like it locked in scope. And this out of scope or in scope is a very Boolean choice. You have to decide. Once you've decided, it locks it. This is fixed in place. What this does is it brings clarity to the team. So your developers know what is exactly in scope and what is out of scope. How do you decide what is in scope and what is out of scope? This is where a subjectivity comes into play. You need to talk to your development team. You need to look at your plans, your budgets, and say, okay, what requirements are really, really necessary at an early stage and what requirements may be necessary at a later stage. Think about it as MVP, the minimum viable product at phase one and phase two, and so on. Okay, moving back to the overview, you can see here that I got two check marks. One check mark, all decisions have been made. You don't want to leave anything undecided. The decisions are very clear, in scope or out of scope. Second, all items must be linked. That means if you look at the requirement, there is no orphan requirement. I have a requirement that is linked up to the feature, which is linked up to test cases. Good. I have linkages. When you don't have linkage, there is a risk that you might forget to do something in the project. Right? Similarly, let's move on to the features. Yes, the development team have agreed to do a feature. I like the date. I'm happy with it. It is linked up. It is currently in scope, out of scope. And again, this is also needs to be decided because it consumes resources, it consumes bandwidth. In this instance, we're going to say, yep, happy to put it in scope. And as soon as you put it in scope, you can see that there is a workflow because it's a task that they have to do, right? Something interesting for the dev team, they can create tasks here. Something else that the dev team can do is oftentimes the development teams, they work in their own project management tools. And these are software project management tools like Jira or DevOps or things like that. Not really relevant to you per se, but your development team might be used to using it. So one way to allow them to work with their own tool is to integrate features with their dev tool, for example, Jira. So if you come into the admin panel, you can see here in the admin panel, we have features. Here you can customize. I go into the features and I can see here Jira integration. The dev team will understand it perfectly if they have a Jira account which they're using for managing software, which is the most commonly used IT tool. they can integrate with this, and then all the features from Sodelic will show up in their Jira, so they can be happy in their kitchen. I call Jira the kitchen, whereas you manage your scope in Sodelic. Another area is all projects have an API key. So with this generating API key, they can easily manipulate data by pushing in and out. So this allows your development team to be highly productive. They can use Sodelic. It's free for all. It's free collaboration. Simply by coming to the collaboration zone, you can invite your collaborators. But if they want to work in their own dev tool, that's okay. You, as the project owner, as the not technical founder, use this tool to manage your project, because it gives you a control. It will nudge you to do the right thing. For instance, with requirements, you have made 83% progress simply by putting your requirements, making all the decisions, and linking it up. Same thing for features. Everything is linked up. All decisions have been made. What do I see in test cases? We wrote the test cases, but they are also in draft. You can see a pattern here. Everything when you create in Sodelic is initially a draft. Why? Because you have created a test case. We don't know if this is a valid test case. Your development team might, you should give them a chance to review the test case, ask any questions that they might have, seek clarification. If they are both happy, if you are happy, your dev team is happy, both are happy, good. Let's put it in scope, right? And once you finish your testing, you can also mark them as accepted, rejected. That's a lesson for another day. For right now, you can see that you have one accepted, as in locked when I say accepted as a test case. Second one, this test case, for the sake of this presentation, let's put it also in scope. So now your scope definition is coming to quite a robust completion. So if you can, hopefully this quick video was helpful in getting you a contextual understanding of what's a good way to manage a software project. In my experience, I have seen many non technical founders with brilliant ideas struggle through the technical framework, because all software development frameworks are designed for software coders or technical people, whereas most software is designed and built for people who are non technical. So, if you have any questions, feel free to reach us. We'll be happy to help you out. Good luck.